So a lot of people are talking about this. I figured I'd jump in and talk about it. Xbox sales apparently faltering or collapsing in Europe, which I thought was very interesting because a lot of people were running with this because it says that the Xbox Series X and S have dropped 52% in sales year on year. But there's a lot of caveats to this, right? When you think about it. And I'm going to get into that, but let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, Microsoft is not interested in the console war. They've mentioned this numerous times. So the console war baity stuff is non-existing, or at least it shouldn't, because Microsoft has been saying for the last decade that they don't care about selling plastic boxes or how many plastic boxes they sell. According to this from Game Industry Biz, PlayStation 5 is comfortably number one in Europe, with sales up 143% over October last year, which was when they were also very supply constrained, which they're not anymore. The near 7-year-old Nintendo Switch is second, but had a 20% drop in sales year on year. But the Xbox Series X and S have seen a 52% drop in sales. Month-to-month comparisons are tough for Xbox. PS5 sales were up 11% compared to September. Switch sales are up 10%. Xbox sales are down just under 20%. Game Industry Biz noted that Xbox's big exclusive Starfield launched in September, whereas PlayStation had Spider-Man 2, Nintendo had Super Mario Bros. Wonder in October, and games broke sales records and things like that. So why does the Xbox Series X and S continue to struggle in Europe? But first I want to point out that this doesn't have anything to do with the UK, which is Microsoft's second biggest territory. This is other areas. What's caused a dramatic console sales collapse? There's a number of theories. Obviously, Chris Dring printed a grim picture for Xbox's fortune. He says the sheer absence of available console stock last year does skew these figures quite a bit. And it's worth noting that Eurozone countries have never been Xbox's strongest territories. They revealed back in February that only hold 20% of the market versus PlayStation's 80%. However, in the UK, which is a market where Xbox is a lot more competitive, it's been a rough year as well, with Series X and S sales down 23%. The reality is that the console has very little momentum, which is such a crucial element when it comes to how successful a generation is or isn't during a generation. One issue often cited by gamers is lack of big hitting exclusives. While Starfield launched in September and hit 10 million players in less than 3 weeks, it does not appear to have moved the needle in terms of console sales. Which again, I can remember Phil Spencer saying this. He goes, there's no world in which Starfield's 11 out of 10 and we suddenly start outselling PlayStation consoles. And he was 100% right. Because first of all, Microsoft goes to a multi-pronged approach. They go PC day one. You can play this through the cloud. You can, they do this on purpose. They've mentioned this numerous times. If we wanted to sell more consoles, we could take it off of being PC day ones, but they're more interested in, not doing that. By Microsoft's own admission, it hasn't done a good enough job pumping out first-party hits. Halo Infinite, which launched a year late in November 21, was a disappointment. Redfall was a disaster, with it struggling to recover from. Smaller scale games such as Hi-Fi Rush and Obsidian's Pentiment were critically acclaimed but not system sellers. So the lack of big exclusives are often cited for why this has happened, and some of the big games like Halo Infinite didn't provide the boost that you might expect. A lot of unreasonable pressure was put on Starfield, and it did cause some sales improvement, but it hasn't sustained. While Game Pass is considered a good deal for gamers, it's having an impact on Xbox game sales and potentially even sales of the console. Bethesda released Starfield on Series X and S and on PC on the same day and straight into Game Pass. For example, it seems likely this strategy, which is a direct opposition to Sony's insistence on launching PC versions of its PlayStation exclusive years later after they come out on the console, is limiting Microsoft's ability to shift hardware, which they've mentioned this numerous times before as well. The Series X and S seems to have hit a wall just 3 years into the life, which is obviously a problem for Phil Spencer and his leadership team, but what can be done? After Microsoft's big $70 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, it seems likely that Game Pass in particular will become an even more compelling subscription service, but it'll take some time for the behemoth publisher to integrate itself into the Microsoft machine. And executives have indicated such as Blizzard's Diablo 4, as well as Modern Warfare 3 won't hit Game Pass until some point in 2024. Meanwhile, Microsoft is working to get more first-party games out the door, which is said to occur more regularly from 24. Xbox has an army of owned studios, which is making exclusives as we speak. Forza Horizon Studio Playground is making Fable. Ninja Theory is making Hellblade 2. Obsidian's making Avowed. Perfect Dark reboot is in the works. And there's still new games coming from Bethesda, as well as an Indiana Jones, a game from the Wolfenstein developer Machine Games. While the launch of these games may help boost Xbox console sales, Dring believes Microsoft will continue its shift away from being too focused on the console, with more energy being spent on PC and mobile. Its acquisition of Activision Blizzard is as much about taking control of King, which publishes a $20 billion mobile money spinner Candy Crush Saga, as it is Call of Duty and World of Warcraft. PC and mobile are dominant platforms across Europe and will be a more effective avenue for Xbox to reach players in these markets, according to him. Again, I think that it's quite the opposite, though. For a couple of reasons. Like, I do think that Microsoft, they obviously have kind of reignited the idea and the thought process of having strong sales and pushing console. They've admitted that, the console is the easiest in for Game Pass. So hard to push Game Pass. Yes, you can push Game Pass on PC, but I think there's a limit there as well, because people want, if you're a Steam player, you want to play your Steam stuff. You're probably not as interested as as you would be as like buying games or whatever, which is why Starfield still managed to sell incredibly well on like Steam and things like that, despite the fact that it was available on Game Pass day one. So there is a lot of things that are kind of coming up that a lot of people are talking about. Do I think it's unfortunate? I think that it's just a little bit one of those things where Microsoft will have to continue to tweak and fine-tune some things, but people are really making a lot of like negative assumptions with this stuff, especially all things considered. Like a lot of these things weren't even available pretty much in a situation where Microsoft had trouble keeping up with supply as well for a while, and now that kind of hurt them, I think, long term anyway. It's really unfortunate. I do hope that we see them kind of come out of it. I don't see why anybody would celebrate them not doing well. I think that's kind of a shitty move, in my opinion. I think we need all these platforms to do well and to do something spectacular. There needs to be that competition there for many reasons, but I think one of the biggest reasons is just for things to kind of be even keel, to keep these other companies trying hard. And I feel like that's what we need to see. So I'm interested in what you guys think. Do you guys think that it is like some kind of bias? Do you think Microsoft is, it's too far gone, nobody cares? Like, I'm of the kind of thought process that looking back on it, it looks like the Xbox One did almost 60 million units sold, which isn't bad at all, honestly. And I think that people would have flocked to it. They had that bad year with no big first-party games, and everything's on PC day one. So it's hard saying exactly what Microsoft is thinking in terms of the success, but it's going to be curious to see how things kind of move forward. I'll link this. You guys can check it out. Let me know. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.